Hi, this is Kim Watson. Welcome to a morning review on Wednesday, the 16th of November. So, looking at the euro dollar first, and yesterday, well, it started off pretty well and finished off pretty poorly. And this morning, it's started off pretty well and at the moment finishing off pretty poorly and looking quite bearish from where we're looking at the moment. It's looking like we could well break the lows. Now, there's almost potential for there was potential for some sort of divergence at yesterday's lows, but it's not really come back down that way. I am watching though. If we start reversing, pushing through, maybe through the 4 21, I'd get a bit more bullish on the, or I say get a bit more bullish, get bullish on the euro. I'm not at all bullish on it at the moment, but there is the potential it may see a bit more of a correction. However, at the moment it just looks really weak. I was looking at the notes through the Asian session there and the comments in the close of the US session. You've got most of the voters now suggesting an interest rate increase in the US, so that was almost a foregone conclusion, but now all the dovish ones are joining in and suggesting it as well, so it becomes a much higher possibility. So, that's pretty much, it's got to be priced in, but we could see a bit more continuation as we're not really seeing too much said or done elsewhere. As I said, with the euro, we're still yet to see what more is going to be done there. So there's the indecision on the euro, which is not helping things. Now, just looking from an hourly perspective here, we hit the daily pivot. We could be breaking the lows and eventually nipping down to catch the R1, and that's what I'm sort of favouring at the moment. Of course, I'd rather see the 8 o'clock pivot out of the way first. If I was looking at the higher side, if it breaks at the moment, you could just simply put a trend line on here, and it breaks this sort of high. Whoops. There, if it breaks that trend line to the upside, well, then I'll then start considering alongside, maybe just up to daily R1, maybe up towards yesterday morning's highs. So the pound, well, the pound is holding on there. Um, I was talking on the weekly update, if it closes below the daily 8, well, it did actually just marginally close below the daily 8, I'd be more bearish. But it recovered pretty well yesterday, and I'm looking at what's going on here. The email that was sort of the cause of the demise in the morning turned out to be basically a pile of anyway. Not to be an accurate email for whatever's going on necessarily, but it's made a recovery from then onwards. Later on, as the news came out, it started showing signs it wants to push up. Eventually, later in the afternoon, almost in the evening, started a much more stronger push up there, and is starting to, well, it's gone through the daily pivot already today. Could at some point be heading up for the R1 at this rate. If it breaks yesterday's afternoon's high, well, that starts confirming higher lows in here, and at the moment, just on the shorter term pattern or intermediate pattern here, it does look like it's got some potential legs to the upside, but at the same time, I'm not taking my eye off this, and it could just become a bit of a chop. And if it starts breaking through probably the 50, the 200 there, the 60-minute 50, 60-minute 200, I'd be looking for the sell side again. Dollar yen, what a beastie. Now, I've got to remain bullish on this. I was bullish yesterday and having a little short on it, which didn't work out. And it's just every time it consolidates and pushes, it pushes much more than it's been consolidating. Classic example here. It's now it's in double divergence at the moment. What we might see is some more consolidation to work off the divergence. It was diverged yesterday, and as it broke through in the afternoon, well, it just really tried to push on without really stalling too much. Had a little bit of a retracement through the into the Asian session, but then he's rallied again since, and to me looks like it could carry on pushing up. would I be looking for the shorts on it? Not really now. It's one thing we looked at yesterday, and the reason we looked at a short in the first place is it run back into its weekly 50, but it's breaking through that. Now, there was always the risk it would break through it because it had been touched before, which made it a small position anyway when you're taking these secondary risks. Plus, it is against what I saw as a reasonably strong trend that's occurring there. So, for me, it's leave it alone unless we see long opportunities. Okay, Aussie dollar. Now the Aussie dollar, can't work this one out overall, and it's in this chop zone on the 4 hourlies, dailies. It's there was sort of mixed news during the Asian session there, with employment, wage inflation down, but there's talk that there's a potential interest rate price starting to be priced in, regardless of the fact that inflation may just only hit the bottom of its target of 2 to 3%. Now, saying that's priced in, it's priced in over the next year. So, well, anything can happen, and I've just got to be looking at what the markets are really showing us at the moment and its weakness. So it's whether or not the debate is it going to break down from here. We've had, sorry, I'll come back to the. In fact, no, I won't. I'm going to go to a weekly chart here, and you see where we are. Now we put that bearish engulfing in on the weekly last week. Now we've broken the lows of that. To me, there is the possibility of it running down. The one thing you've got to bear in mind is there's all these support levels and these prior lows that it's sort of done in previously. However, start of a break, and as this wedge starts playing its way out, I should probably adjust the wedge now to the highs up here, maybe. But we know it broke the original wedge on the news, US news, but now it's looking like, well, it could be on for a bigger correction. So it's been ignoring this sort of the American news largely to now. I say largely, of course, we had this big move that sort of came back down again, but whilst everything else was selling off, the Aussie was just hanging in its own world. But now, well, potentially it could roll a little bit more here, and as I say, potential to break the lows there, and it is potential. It's got the daily, sorry, it's already hit its daily R1. It's got a weekly R1 below us, which is there is the possibility at some point. But I really, again, this is one of these markets, just like the Euro, would like to see the 8 o'clock pivot time out the way first. It may just consolidate and chop within the range as it has been doing, and it may just continue in that road. Okay, Canadian dollar, we've seen this sort of correction to the downside, largely attributable to the price of oil correcting to the upside. Now, the meeting, I just found the meeting date is coming this Friday, so it'll be over the weekend, probably Friday leading through the weekend. So there's sort of lots of positive comments coming through, which is helping the Canadian dollar at the moment to the downside. Big correction, big daily pivot swing there. Potential for a continuation to the downside. Maybe we'll see this leading through towards Friday. In terms of opportunities, there may be opportunities to sell into the 4 hourly 8 or 21, maybe somewhere in that region. If it does have a bit of a retrace, at least to give it a shot. It's already hit the 21s on the hourly. It has got the pivot a little bit further up, the daily pivot, and it may be well worth watching for that first if you're looking for the continuation of this downside. That said, one thing to bear in mind on oil, there is a bit of divergence here, and this may want to correct itself a little bit as well. So the combination of the two could be quite good. I'd be watching for what oil was doing if I was looking for the short on the CAD. Okay, that's pretty much it. Today it's back. The focus again is back onto the pound this morning. We've got the earnings, average earnings, of course, the employment figures coming out at 9:30. Leading on from that, 1:30 manufacturing sales CAD. not such a big mover at any time, but it may create something there. We'll have a look at that. And then crude oil inventory is certainly something much more, given the more volatility at 330. That's pretty much it for me. Then you've got New Zealand data out most likely through the Asian session, or into the Asian session. So not interested in any of that. So as I say, main news this morning is the pound and the employment report. Okay, have a great one. Bye for now.